Check out what's been going on with the pop culture cosmos and the PCC multiverse. Check out what's been going on with the pop culture cosmos and the PCC multiverse.
Am I supposed to say something here?
You put that. You're the. That's the. I'll do it again. You do the. That's the pop culture cosmos and that middle. Can you see that? I don't know if you see that.
Yeah,
What I typed in. Okay.
I see it. I can see it.
Okay. Check out. Oh, my voice is like not with me today. Check out what's been going on with the pop culture cosmos and the PCC multiverse.
That's the pop culture cosmos and the PCC multiverse on 7 days on online radio, and new shows available twice a week on over 30 of your favorite podcasting networks.
I'm saying I should put 7 days a week. My bad. 7 days. Try that. That's the.
Wait, where's 7 days a week?
Where I said 7 days, but just add a week on it.
Okay. That's the pop culture cosmos and the PCC multiverse on 7 days a week on online radio, and new shows available twice a week on over 30 of your favorite podcasting networks.
All right, fair enough. We'll see what we can play with that. Hold on. Microwave.
I hear somebody counting.
That's my wife. Because my mic will pick up the microwave, and she conveniently, while I'm recording, has on the microwave, which is just so awesome because now I get to hear this all in editing, and I can't take it out, which is awesome. I'll try it one more time. Okay. Check out what's been going on. See, you know what? I'm just gonna have to grab. I'll get from what I can get from it. That's fine. We're just gonna go with it. My voice is not with it today. I can't do a promo voice today. So we're just going to have to run with it. I don't even know why either. It's just maybe it's allergies. On our latest episode, will Ready Player One cause an... On our latest episode, will Ready Player One cause an overload of pop culture? What's good on Netflix? And was the Ant-Man film worthy of a sequel? And was the Ant-Man film worthy of a sequel? All this and more as we once again delve into the pop culture cosmos. Just go. Just go. Yes. Dude, go. Unbelievable. You're good. 30 more seconds. This is a tremendous start to our program here. And it's just awesome.
Well, it is April Fool's, so...
yes, April Fool's on me.
Not edit, like leave it in there.
I've got no choice, but yeah, this is why I never advertised the YouTube channel.
Dude, John Sweeney puts some dirty stuff up sometimes.
This is why, I bet he is the guy that helped get us started here. So I won't say that's his choice, freedom of speech, and I believe he is a full supporter of that. So yes. And we're back for another episode of the Pop Culture Cosmos. My name is Gerald Glassford from Pop Culture Cosmos and Game Source. We truly appreciate you tuning in to us here each and every week. But it wouldn't be a Pop Culture Cosmos without my good friend. He is the main man at Humanica Media. You want to check out all the great things that they've got going on there today at humanicamedia.com. It is Josh Peterson. What's going on, my friend?
Hey, so let me tell you a story here. I am surfing the internet right now, and I'm looking at the people I know on social media and how many times the Buddy Christ meme is being circulated by church people. And I'm wondering to myself, do they actually know what that's from? If they could see it in context, would they still be posting a meme of it? What would their reaction be?
They would probably wash their hands and probably go to their church and probably do a lot of explaining to their local priest, that's for sure. But diving into religion is not something we do here. We deal with pop culture and the latest and greatest in pop culture.
To be
And we're
fair,
gonna,
Buddy Christ is sort of pop culture dogma. Kevin Smith, check it out, guys, if you ever get a chance.
all right, well, okay. And all our best to Kevin Smith in as far as his health is concerned. We're glad to hear that he is recovering after the heart attack that he suffered last month. So definitely hope for a strong comeback for him as well. Once again, we're going to have a great episode today. We've got Hunter Vaught coming up later in the program from the TVRatingsGuide.com. He's going to be talking a lot about the TV rating scene. We also have our good friend Tyler Baker from the Fantasy Football Pater podcast. He asked to do something a little bit different for this week's episode. He's going to be talking about what he's been checking out on Netflix and some of the things that I'm sure you probably wanted to check out and some things you didn't even know was on the channel. With so many things on Netflix, he's trying to bring it all home to you as far as let you know what's cool and what things you might be interested in that you want to check out. He's going to be mentioning that here in just a few minutes. But Josh, it overtook the box office this weekend. It garnered over $180 million worldwide in its first few days released. It is the pop culture love fest known as Ready Player One, directed by Steven Spielberg. And Josh, it was a great thing for us. We gave it pretty solid reviews on our last episode. We also will have a written review coming up here in the near future on our Pop Culture Cosmos website as well. So I ask you, Josh, seeing how well it's performed, knowing that it also actually cost quite a bit to do, and that's understandable, seeing how the scenes in the Oasis obviously took a lot of CGI and a lot of effort as far as that's concerned, and cost as well. So what are your thoughts on Ready Player One doing so well at the box office? And what do you think this will do as far as more studios thinking about trying to translate this into more pop culture greatness?
I'm really glad to see it is doing really well. I guess like the biggest fear with something like this was that it wouldn't connect with people. And that was the just because the references in the book and stuff, and they even took a chance, like, we were talking about The Shining, like they took a chance with some old old pop culture properties in the movie itself. And what was cool was that there wasn't really, there were some call outs to more modern stuff, the Minecraft, Halo, Overwatch stuff, but for the most part it stuck pretty true to like the time era that it was, that this guy oh shoot, what is his name in the movie?
James Halliday, you're talking about?
The time era that he was obsessed with. And I love the Gundam and the Iron Giant and the music and all that stuff. But what I definitely think this will result in is we'll probably be seeing an adaptation of Ernie Klein's other book, Armada. And we're going to be seeing a lot more, like, I think the 80s/90s retro phase is going to become a thing. I wouldn't be surprised if we see more movies that take place in that time era. Even now, look at Captain Marvel coming out and it takes place in the 90s. So I think we're going to be seeing stuff, more things like that. And it's just a weird time too, because like I just read that KB Toys was possibly coming back. So it's a total blast from the past, but like I think it's cool. I like the I like the retro look, and we'll let people finally appreciate the best days ever.
Well, that's another thing I want to get into because Spider-Man: Homecoming last year also threw a lot of pop culture references from the 80s and 90s in its film. But with that trend now of reaching back into the past for the quote unquote glory days of the 80s and 90s, that's one thing I want to ask because it seems like that people are trying to reach back into the 80s and 90s. And you even said it was the best in days and the glory days and whatnot, much better than maybe right even right now, so to speak. But is it going to come to the point where so many entities are going to be trying to create so many projects based off of nostalgia and pop culture that it might be too much and that will be going on pop culture overload?
I mean, I'm sure that's a possibility, but if you think about it on the studio's part, that's actually like, Universal especially, like that's actually a very, very clever marketing scheme because, you look back, they have some, I guess Warner Brothers too, but Universal more than anyone has a lot of very popular retro properties under their belts. They got Back to the Future, they got Jaws, and like making new movies that do call outs to these films is an excellent way to make people want to go back and watch them. So, good for them. But, yes, there's such thing as too much of a good thing. This, it's cool and I want it to, be well done. But like, is with anything retro, like it's only a matter of time until it'll run its cycle and then we'll be on to something else. Hopefully this will put a stop to some of like the reboots going around. But yeah, in the meantime, we'll just kind of enjoy it while it's here, and it's something new. I mean, not new, but it's something different than what we've been getting. So we'll see what happens.
I will say that yes, it did make over $180 million worldwide in its first weekend. It still has a long way to go before it gets into the black as a movie that makes a profit for the movie studio in its first run as a film and not having to depend on home video or broadcast television rights or cable television rights or what have you. So it still has to, I think, probably what, 450 million before you can consider it a total success from the theater and possibly even warrant a second film that will most likely be based off of Ernest Cline's next book in this Ready Player series, which I'm assuming would be Ready Player 2, but you never know what's going to be called. It could be something different, but it will lead into the same characters, possibly on a different adventure, so to speak. So we'll have to wait and see as far as that's concerned, because right now it's still in a tenuous nature in regards to whether or not it will make a profit at the box office. But definitely it's off to a much better than expected start because there were some lowball figures as far as what it would do worldwide, possibly even trending lower than Pacific Rim Uprising and Tomb Raider. But it looks right now that of the three films that we had talked about for weeks, the back to back to back Tomb Raider, Pacific Rim Uprising, and Ready Player One, that indeed Ready Player One was the movie that that's going to come out on top at the box office of all three, and that worldwide figures will show that ultimately that Ready Player One will be the one that comes out ahead of those other two films.
Right, right, yeah. So, hey, I'm glad, man. That's cool. It's cool to have like people from nowadays get a taste of what the things that we enjoyed, and this was like the perfect film for Spielberg, and I'm glad to see that amongst we talked about this before, the titans that are Disney, Marvel, Star Wars, which are all pretty much the same thing. That there is a new property that can stand tall and make some money and entertain people.
That's true. And just seeing if it can evolve into something greater and more people will kind of gravitate to it because of the fact that it has so many different things that they can identify with. And like I said before on last week's show, that it was something that I could identify it with each and every decade that was introduced as far as some pop culture item. and somebody who is my age that has seen and experienced all those things that they experienced in the movie. For me, it was kind of cool that I could point out and say, hey, I know about that, I did that, or I used that, or I enjoyed that when I was younger, and it was just kind of nice to see all those things mixed in. It is good, like I said, a pretty solid movie as far as that's concerned. I do suggest, though, if you're interested in reading the book first, that I actually think you should see the film first, because there are a substantial amount of differences between the book and the film and how they get to their conclusion. So, and that's one thing I want to ask again, Josh, and reiterate. To me, I think you should go see the film first and then maybe read the book after that. Do you feel the same way, or do you think it should be the other way around?
That's a good question with this. I think that you should probably see the movie first, and then go back and read the book just so you can kind of get the full tour. I like the book story a lot better than the movie, but I still enjoyed the movie. The and it just makes sense because you're going to be watching the movie, you're going to read the book first, you're going to go back and watch the movie, and then you're going to be thinking about everything that the movie is lacking compared to the book instead of actually enjoying the movie for what it is. So I would definitely recommend seeing the movie first, but still go read the book. It's good.
I will say this. I like the oasis represented outside of The Shining. Um, I like the oasis that was represented in the film better than the book, but I also like the way the outside world, Columbus, and the entire dystopian world was represented and portrayed better and fleshed out much better in the book. And I think that's why the book maybe gets a little bit of a nod ahead of the film for me, but both are positive reviews for me as far as both are concerned. And but both do have their issues as far as the development of characters, things of that nature. I think the villains are better in the book. I think the heroes are a little bit better in the movie. So it goes a little bit back and forth as far as that's concerned as well. So I know a lot of people are talking about that online. It is not a faithful rendition of the book, and you know what? It actually it isn't a bad thing this time, because as you both, as we have stated before, Ernest Cline helped with the screenplay, so he could have actually made it in line with the screenplay, but realized maybe they needed something different to experience on screen.
Right. And two, like most writers, you read any interviews with writers years after they write a book, and they do say that there's some stuff that they would have rather done or done differently if they could have. And I guess like if you're adapting something for a movie, like there are things in books that you can't do because just there's time jumps, and Ready Player One has a lot of like things that take place over long spans of time, so like it's understandable why he would cut things out, but still, in the absence of those scenes, you have to have something to keep pushing the narrative forward. So I don't dislike what he did. I just, there's a lot of stuff that the book goes into a lot more detail.
Well, I tell you what, does that account for as well? Let me ask you this: does that also account for Vendetta Dark, if if that was ever adapted to the big screen, as far as that, or uh, or Congratulations You Suck? What about that? If that became a movie in the big screen, would you see some differences being played out there?
Yeah, just because I mean, okay, they're both kind of different. Like Vendetta Dark, yeah, I would play out. I'd have to, it's weird because there are things that, you know, formulas for movies. So Vendetta Dark, like obviously I'd have to flesh out, the romance stuff a little more. And then the big baddie scene in the end was kind of will have to be less, I don't know, Fantastic Four and more more action scenes throughout. And then as for like Congratulations You Suck, there would obviously a lot of the comedy takes place in the character's head, so I would have to figure out a way to like translate that into the dialogue. So they all have their challenges.
And you can get Vendetta Dark on Amazon right now, and also Congratulations You Suck will be available later this year at Amazon as well. That's why I'm trying to tie that in with our noted author here on the Pop Culture Cosmos. So that's
Ooh.
something right there for you. What?
I said, "Oh yeah, coming soon."
Oh, indeed, it is. It is. It is. But I just want to say again that Ready Player One is a solid experience, both from a reading standpoint and also a visual standpoint. The first and third key experiences from a visual standpoint are things I've really never experienced before in movies, and just they're truly awe-inspiring. So just for that alone, people should go see the film because it's just overloading with pop culture goodness. And one last thing, while we're still on Ready Player One, do you think that Ready Player One success will again? Do you think that if more entities approach this Ready Player One type scenario where they're just grabbing every single pop culture reference that they can, that they're not going to be able to do it quite as well as Steven Spielberg did in Ready Player One? Or do you think that they can do it even better and take it up a higher notch?
It depends on who it is. Like the reason Spielberg did this so well is because like that was his career was spawned in that time. So he knows all the tricks. I mean, maybe the guys from Stranger Things might be able to pull that off. Okay, but yeah, I don't think like there's always going to be people who try to mimic other movies, and they sometimes they get onto the big screen, sometimes they go straight to digital or DVD. Example would be like when Transformers came out, you had the Transmorphers. I would always see that on the wall at Blockbuster. Geez, that was a callback. No, but yeah, it all. There's always going to be something that tries to outdo something else by stealing its theme. So it's not unheard of. But Spielberg does it well. Maybe the guys from Stranger Things could do it. But like, if you got any more like, I mean, I'm sure Edgar Wright could do something like that decently. But if you got any like newer directors, or more like I don't know, I don't want to say millennial, but yeah, more like millennial directors, if they didn't have what makes these movies so good is people that have a passion for the source material, just like Ernie Klein does in his books. So if you have someone that's not passionate about that and is only in it for a paycheck, it's going to be terrible.
Pointed pointed advice indeed, and I definitely stand by that as well. And if it also helps to have experienced all those things within pop culture that they actually went for, whether it was Akira's bike that you actually have in your room right now as you're talking, or whether it was the A-Team, or any of the over 100 different pop culture references and icons that was either spoken about, seen, or represented in some form or fashion in the film. And it just is amazing to see all those references at the same time come forward. And hopefully, if somebody does attempt this again, that it's done with the same taste and the same affection that Ready Player One has for pop culture. What are your thoughts on Ready Player One? Are you excited about seeing the movie? Have you seen it? And are you excited for more projects such as this that delve into pop culture really, really heavily, and really or are you just kind of afraid to see everything go astray when it comes to pop culture, and just worried that more people will try to just cash in on this type of pop culture nostalgia and just go overboard with it way too much, and way too much for anyone's taste, that is? Share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Also as well, Pop Culture Cosmos, Humanica Media, and Game Source on Facebook and Twitter as well. Well, we've got our good friend Tyler Baker. He is standing by right after the break. He's going to be talking some Netflix, what he likes and what he's seen that's good on Netflix, that he's seen recently. He's going to be talking about that and some things that maybe you should look out for the next time you go over, and Netflix right there for you. Plus, also as well, later in the broadcast, we've got Josh talking his thoughts on Far Cry 5 and giving his thoughts on the actual game itself. He's played a few hours of it, and he shares his thoughts on that. And we also have Hunter Vaught from the TV Ratings Guide, and also our thoughts on Ant-Man, as well as we break down the Marvel Cinematic Universe. All that coming up, and hopefully a whole lot more as well for you. Thank you so much for sticking around, because this is the Pop Culture Cosmos. We are back, and we're back. We are back again. It's the Pop Culture Cosmos. Gerald Glassford here from Pop Culture Cosmos and Game Source. If by any chance you need help finding where to go to check out our shows, the Pop Culture Cosmos and the PCC Multiverse, those shows drop Monday and Friday on over 30 different podcasting networks. Just subscribe, like, download on any one of those channels, including Apple Podcasts. And again, like I said, over 30 more podcasting networks. Plus, we're also being streamed on online radio stations 7 days a week, Mondays on the Podcast Radio Network, Fridays on the Podcast Radio Network. And then we also got as well Good Talk Radio, Airwave Radio out of the UK. We've also got Croc Radio in Canada. Also, Croc Radio in Canada, the Western Digital Reserve Broadcasting Network, IPM Nation, and we're just truly happy to be on all of those. Oh, IPM Nation and Gray Cloud Radio. We're just truly happy to be on all those different networks, and we thank you so much. And like I said, if you have any issues on where to find us, check out our Pop Culture Cosmos Facebook page, and we have a listing of everywhere we're at on many different stations, whether you want to download our shows and get bonus content as well, or listen to our 1 hour shows that are family friendly and always with the latest in pop culture. Josh, you've got a great thing going on at Humanica Media. So tell us what's going on in your world when it comes to Humanica Media.
Right. We have a new episode of Topicocalypse going live tomorrow morning. You can check out the latest Super BS, now available on iTunes. And there is a list of games coming out in April for you to check out, narrated by Brian from the Super BS Games cast. And also, there should be some new What About This up soon, hopefully. So I will get back to you on that. Also, check us out on the Podcast Radio Network every Tuesday night at 6:30.
It's 7 p.m. Eastern Time, 4 p.m. Pacific on the Podcast Radio Network. Close again, my friend. Close again. But I will say this: if you check out our previous episode, the podcast, the PCC Multiverse, if you download it or listen to one of our podcast networks, the April update on games coming out this month from Brian at the Super BS Games Cast is on there as extra content. Let's see. Okay. Okay. For this show, we've got extra content from our good friends at the Skip and Josh podcast. They've got their Major League Baseball preview as extra content if you download our show. All right. And so, Josh, I tell you what, right now we've got a great thing going on when it comes to Far Cry 5. And you have actually had a chance to sit down and play through the game extensively. It has garnered solid reviews across the board, and it is well thought of by gamers. I was worried that this would be a situation where Far Cry 5 is one too many Far Cries, but it looks like I'm wrong about that. And actually, I'm very delighted to say that as far as a gaming contingent is concerned. Is that correct, or is it something a little bit different for you?
No, it's fun. I wish that it was something that they would carry over to like Assassin's Creed, just because the open world is just beautiful. If they had an Assassin's Creed game like that, where you can just go to different places instead of being confined within the walls of cities. Oh, I guess the new Assassin's Creed is kind of like that, but just like the texture and everything it looks so real, whereas Assassin's Creed still looks really video gamey. But I digress. Back to the game. Yes, it's a very great game. I love I love just being able to walk around, and instead of having to, because it's such a massive map, and instead of having to go to different places and look for side quests, look for missions, look for interest points, they have them all listed out in your menu. So you can it, you know, you still have to go find them, but it shows you like what you've done, and it has like the names of the stuff you still need to go find. So I like that. I like it a lot. And there are times like it is, you know, I'm playing it on normal, and it is a very challenging game. They have, you know, there's points when you have to like protect a certain area, or you have to hang out till backup arrives. And it is just a constant flood of like angry you know, cult like rednecks just running at you all the time. And like these characters in this game, you know, when we get to the cult, they are terrifying. They I love how Ubisoft is always like they're not afraid to dive into the concepts of American politics where, you know, you see like in Assassin's Creed games, the bad guys is clearly an undertone for you know, as far as what do you want to call it, like the right versus left. And then same thing in Far Cry, it's like, you know, everyone was looking at the game like, oh my gosh, this is they're doing this, and it's make it, you know, this is basically everyone's like, oh, they're like showing what, you know, the right really is, but it's like it's showing the different factions of the right, and shows kind of how ridiculous like our politics have become, how like even groups in the right, groups in the left kind of split up into these different extremes. So that's interesting to explore that theme. um it's cool too in the fact that you can, when you go into these different strongholds, you can summon allies. So you can go, you do favors for people. Like I got a dog, I rescue the dog from the cage. And there's another time where I helped this guy, I helped him with his airplane, and now I can summon him whenever like things get tough. And the game does not shy away from telling you, like, you know how when you do an open world game, you have the option of like putting the story off if you want to. In this game, the game, it does not shy away from like telling you like, hey, before you do any more, like you need to go and do this, you need to do this story mission, because I was doing a lot of side quests, and then the game finally like put me in a position where I absolutely had to do this story because it activated the triggers, it triggered the cutscenes. So you can be out exploring when the game's like, all right, you know, you've kind of gone far enough. You shouldn't go into this area until you progress further in the story. It'll trigger the cutscene, and all of a sudden you'll be sucked into it. So it's fun. It's really cool. Everything's super open. Montana is a beautiful place to be exploring. It's not as like, for those of you who have been to Montana, you know, you can drive around for literally hours and just run into nothing. Luckily, all the stuff that you need in this game is pretty localized, so you don't have to, you know, spend 2 or 3 hours crossing a map and finding nothing. So you can search all these areas. You have allies. You're building a resistance. It's kind of like Assassin's Creed, where I want to say it was the second Assassin's Creed, where you have to go in and you have to rescue the people being held hostage in exchange for saving their life. They join your assassin rank or whatever. In this one, you rescue basically residents of Montana, and in exchange for rescuing them, they join what's called your, you know, the little resistance you're forming. So it's, you know, I have a feeling this is all gonna come together in the end. But no, I'm digging it so far. I'm gonna try to get a review up here soon. Have you gotten a chance to play around with it at all?
Not as of yet. I've been very intrigued by not only the story mode, but also the arcade mode. Could you share everybody can you share some thoughts on the arcade mode as far as being able to go ahead, not only with the different type of features that it has, but also the fact that is the creation tool something that can be utilized to create really good stuff? Or I've heard some feedback as far as possibly even being a little bit too difficult for basic level creation.
Yeah, I haven't played around with it too much. I dove into it a little bit. It's complicated. You know, it takes some time to figure out. I like that they put it in there, and it's got some bugs definitely to work out, but for right now it's kind of an interesting take. You know how we were talking about Blood Dragon and how good that was? It's kind of I feel like they're, with the arcade mode, they're trying to kind of recapture that feeling that Blood Dragon gave you when you were playing it. Um, yeah, the level builder is a little it's a little glitchy, doesn't really work that well, but like I'm gonna go back to that and play it more, but I still want to, you know, hammer out as much of the campaign as I possibly can before I start jumping into that.
But overall, it's been a very good experience for you. very good open world experience, but also as well, it actually teaches, actually make sure that you still experience the story as far as that, as far as going in and experience the whole campaign. And you can't totally 100% avoid it because it still draws you into that experience.
Right. And like every Far Cry seems to have some kind of like borderline supernatural element. And I'm not sure what it is in this game yet, but like there's a drug that these cult people are produce called Bliss. And like when they, back to the pulling you into the story part, when they want you to move on with a part, like I even reached a point where they're like, hey, let's shoot this guy with we don't want to kill him, we need to shoot him with bliss bullets. So they shoot you with a bliss bullet, and then you just, it shows you driving through a forest and you just pass out, and then when you wake up, that you're in the middle of the cutscene that they want you to be in. So they do they do a well with transitions, I guess I should say. But no, it's fun. I want to play more. It's crazy. Like you can literally drive everything. Like I was in a tractor earlier and I was running down this guy with a flamethrower. So it's and this is another interesting mechanic Ubisoft has done, like especially with Assassin's Creed Origins too, is that when things get set on fire, you used to be able to just walk through things in their game even if they were on fire, but now the fire spreads and it actually catches your clothes on fire, and depending on what type of clothing you're wearing, the fire spreads over your body really fast. So you either can like you have the right clothing on to where you can roll around and put the fire out, or if you're not barely wearing any clothing, you just burn to a singe like within seconds. So it's you gotta look out for that. Like the environment does fight back.
Well, that's great to hear, and it sounds like a very positive review indeed coming up. That's going to be available on our Pop Culture Cosmos site. You got to check it out. You got to check it out this week when it hits popculturecosmos.wordpress.com. And I'll tell you what, it looks like Far Cry 5 is going to be another solid entry into this series. And hopefully that will lead into more great DLC and more great things put into it, and allow it to be able to breathe and prosper as a Far Cry game instead of bringing out another one real quick like they did before. So hopefully they learned their lesson as they have with the Assassin's Creed series and be able to let this one prosper to its fullest extent. What are your thoughts on Far Cry 5? Do you like it as much as Josh does, or do you have issues with it? Is it great going into that world of Montana and going ahead and experiencing all the pseudo-political things that are going on within that game? Share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Also as well, Pop Culture Cosmos, Humanity Media, and Game Source on Facebook and Twitter as well. When we come back, Hunter Vaught from the TVRatingsGuide.com. He is going to be talking a lot about TV ratings and he's going to be talking about a lot of the shows that are meeting. He's going to be talking about a lot of the shows that are popping up in the news when it comes to TV ratings, whether it's Roseanne or whether it's a lot of other great shows as well, or whether it's a lot of other shows as well. He's going to be coming up here in a couple seconds right after the break to talk about that and a whole lot more as we get into a lot of TV ratings talk. And after that, Josh and I will be back to talk Ant-Man and is it worthy of a sequel? We're going to be talking about that and a little bit more when we come back. This is the Pop Culture Cosmos. And we're back to close out the show. This is the Pop Culture Cosmos. Want to thank so much Hunter Vaught from the TVRatingsGuide.com and also as well Tyler Baker from the Fantasy Football Paydirt podcast for stopping in for today's show to share us their thoughts on Netflix and also the great TV rating scene. Josh, before we head on out, as we break down the Marvel Cinematic Universe movie by movie, as we head into Avengers: The Infinity War later this month. Can you believe it? It's this month coming to theaters. We're breaking down the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We're up to Ant-Man, and it was a nice little heist picture, and I'm comparing it a lot to Solo that's coming out later this year as well on Memorial Day weekend, that it is a nice little heist picture with some superhero elements, of course, but it garnered what, a little bit between $400 and $500 at the box office. Not a great performance of modern Marvel Cinematic Universe standards compared to the other movies around it that have performed a lot better, but it still has its fans as far as a nice little movie is concerned. It's still a very solid attempt in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But I ask you, Josh, because of its performance overall, was it worthy of a sequel, which is coming out later this year in The Ant-Man and the Wasp?
I think so. It was weird with Ant-Man because I was just discussing this with someone today. They're like, I didn't know that phase 2 ended with Ant-Man. I was saying to them, I'm like, yeah, it was a risky film, and it took them a really long time to get that into production. Like, we were hearing about that for, like, I want to say 3 or 4 years before they even started filming. As rumored Edgar Wright was working on it, and what would this movie be? He's gonna, he said it's gonna be a heist film, and Marvel fans were like, what? That does not make sense with what they're going for. But anyways, uh, no, it was good. It's kind of like it was in the right place. It came at the right time where everyone was like, Age of Ultron came out to very mixed reviews amongst fans and critics and just people who went to go see it. And it was like, the tone was very dark, and it was such like it ended with, like, you could see the tension between the Avengers building into Civil War, but it kind of was like a vacation, is a break from the drama to just put you into it. It was like a standalone film. It's kind of like what they did with Black Panther. It stood, I mean, less they did it. This was like the movie. This was a movie where it could literally stand on its own. You could not, with the exception of the Falcon scene, like it could literally exist on its own, and that was cool. It's kind of like a break. You got to see a more lighthearted superhero in the midst of a very dark place for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and it's the same thing with Ant-Man and Wasp. It's cool to see that come out after Avengers Infinity War, because we're obviously something bad is going to happen in this movie, and then we'll get a little break, with Ant-Man and Wasp. So, and as for the movie itself, I think it's important. Ant-Man, for people who've been reading the comic books or even like watching the cartoons, Ant-Man is a very important character in the Avengers. The decision to use Scott Lang instead of Hank Pym, well, he's in the movie, but as far as like actually playing Ant-Man goes, like that was a weird one, because Scott Lang's from the West Coast Avengers, and he actually doesn't really have that great of a backstory. But no, it was. I think it's important. It's an important film. I think it opens up another side of the Marvel Cinematic Universe that they can explore in films outside of Ant-Man, as far as like the quantum universe goes. I'm curious to see where it's going, but obviously Ant-Man and Wasp have to have some kind of tie-in, because Evangeline Lilly, I guess, was saying she was on the she's in Avengers 4, so it's got to have some kind of build up. I liked the film. It was a nice little break from the seriousness of it all, and it was the Marvel film that we needed. It kind of broke up the monotony of it all. What about you?
Well, I like the film as well. It's right there as far as a cute film for me. It's not one of my highest picks, mind you. If you go to my article that I keep refreshing at popculturecosmos.wordpress.com, it is something that's there in the middle. It was good for what it was. It did a little bit over $500 million at the box office, according to Box Office Mojo, and which is normally would be great. I mean, we're actually asking those numbers for Ready Player One and hoping that it reaches that amount. But when it comes to the Marvel Cinematic Universe scheme of things, that's like right now at the lower end, as far as, like you were saying, Ultron. Ultron, yeah, it had mixed reviews, but it did well over $1 billion. And then you had Doctor Strange, and then you had, obviously, leading up to what you have now with Black Panther and whatnot. All these movies since then have garnered so much more money. That's why when Ant-Man and the Wasp was announced, people were like kind of scratching their heads and saying, was that really a movie that needed a sequel? Plus, like you said, it's very self-contained, which again brought out that question about necessitating a sequel for it. But obviously, Marvel has bigger plans for that type of movie and what it represents. And like you said, there is going to be some tie in to it. Might have been better used for another character to be introduced or another character to get their own movie. I know I've talked about Black Widow on several occasions getting her own movie. Finally, one is being written. Whether or not it gets to the screen, I'm not sure 100% yet. I'm hoping, but that could have been a point where a Black Widow movie could have been put, and it would have probably just served the same effect as Ant-Man and the Wasp. But be that as it may, I think that you have established characters there that are enjoyable to watch. The platform is always nice to see as far as from what we saw at the first film. Like I said, it's not a movie that really has ill feelings. It was just people, I think, were surprised because of the fact it did pretty good, but not at the stellar level all the other current Marvel Cinematic Universe movies have done. I mean, the type of money that it generated is similar to the earlier days of the Marvel Cinematic Universe when Thor and Captain America first came out onto the big screen.
Yeah. So, sorry. We'll see. I mean, yeah, like you said, obviously there's plans for this property and these characters. Otherwise, they wouldn't keep investing in them. And I think it's smart to bring Evangeline Lilly in just because they did the they did the Ant-Man thing, and like you can only do that type of film once, and then you gotta change it up. So I want to know like who obviously who the how the story of the villain's going to take place and all that stuff. But they did a good job too in the first movie of saying like, hey, there's other ways that this story can go, like in the future. They set the whole thing up with what's his name, Hank Pym's Pym's wife, and then obviously his daughter, and there's definitely plans in place. So we'll see what happens, and it'll be interesting, like especially when Ant-Man and Doctor Strange come together, because there's like the quantum universe, and then there's the different realms that Doctor Strange can go to. That'll be an interesting. I wonder if those two will ever merge into one film, maybe. But yeah, it's just one more world, one more aspect of the MCU that would be cool to see.
Well, I am definitely interested in it, and I know you are as well, but it's good to see a little film that could, as compared to the other larger entities in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, get some love. Yes, there could have been other films that could have gone in its place, but it's nice to see that Marvel does recognize and does have a plan for even smaller films such as Ant-Man and the Wasp. What are your thoughts on Ant-Man and the Wasp? Are you excited to see it? Do you really like Ant-Man as far as the first movie is concerned? And do you like the fact that it is getting a sequel? Share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Also as well, Pop Culture Cosmos, Humanica Media, and Game Source on Facebook and Twitter as well. So Josh, any last thoughts on the way out?
Yes. Play Far Cry. And I'm also in the middle of a game on the Switch called Lost Sphear, which I think we talked about before, but that will also have a review going up soon. Not my favorite game, but it passed some hours when I was bored, so you'll be able to hear more about that soon.
That's great to hear indeed. That's some pointed things to talk. That's some pointed things to look forward to indeed. So for Josh Peterson, this is Gerald Glassford. It's another beautiful day in paradise right here in the Pop Culture Cosmos. Pop Culture Cosmos. We thank you for listening, and here's hoping you have yourself a great day.